Hello guys, welcome back to our anime moments. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel, thank you. Today is explanation of upcoming episode of Battle Through the Heavens based on novel. So let's start. Sticky fresh blood was scattered on the stone fragments beside the mountain stream. A dense bloody scent was emitted. Numerous ice-cold corpses had collapsed in a mess beside the stone fragments. Everything in this place was quiet. Only a bloody scent that refused to disappear lingered, indicating that an intense battle had occurred here earlier. The silence in this place continued for a long time. Only then was it broken by the many sounds of rushing wind that suddenly appeared in the sky. Their expressions changed suddenly when they discovered the corpses on the ground. An elderly figure slowly landed on an enormous rock. From the looks of his appearance, he was that elder from the Ice River Valley who had been guarding the entrance to the fallen god stream. The Ice River Valley elder stopped and looked on with shock at the ground full of bodies. With a twist of his body, he appeared behind a large stone and stared unbelieving at 3 corpses before him. A couple seconds later, he took in a deep breath. Elder Bing Xian, an Ice River Valley's disciple with a similarly pale white face, landed beside the old man. He swallowed a mouthful of saliva and softly said, "All the corpses of the elites from the Ice River Valley, who had headed to the fallen god stream to search for the woeful poisoned body, are here. They include Bing Fu and the other 2 elders." The elder, who was called Bing Xian, involuntarily shut his eyes. His eyes were already murky when he opened them once again. "Carry all the corpses back. I want to return to the Ice River Valley immediately." Bing Xian turned around and left after speaking. His expression appeared unusually gloomy. The disciple from the Ice River Valley nodded. He looked at the corpses of the 3 old men and a chill involuntarily rose within his heart. These are 3 expert Do zones. Who possessed such a frightening strength to kill all of them? Although Bing Xian did not know who the murderer was, he knew that this Pearl region might well cease to be calm in the future. With the strength of the Ice River Valley, it would definitely not sit back and do nothing in the face of 3 of its elders being killed. While these Ice River Valley's disciples were dealing with the messy situation, Xiao Yan was gently placing the little fairy doctor down in a secret mountain cave in the deepest parts of this fallen god stream, far from the mountain stream. He took out a moonlight stone and shot it into the wall of the cave. A gentle light immediately scattered down, expelling the darkness within the cave. Xinlan stood beside the little fairy doctor. She hurriedly took out some warm fur from her storage ring when she saw her pale face. After which, she placed it on the ground and softly said, "Little fairy Dr. Jiejie, rest first." The little fairy doctor smiled and nodded to Xinlan. She sat down on the warm fur before lifting her eyes to look at Xiao Yan by the side. She appeared to have recalled something as she suddenly said, "It has been less than a year, but you have broken through to the Do Zone class. In that case, have you resolved the demon poison spot in your body?" Xiao Yang involuntarily and helplessly smiled when he heard this. He said, "Now is not the time to bother about that demon poison spot. You should take care of your body first." The little fairy doctor held her cheeks with her hands. She blinked her curly eyelashes. Her voice appeared extremely soft due to her weak tone. "I'm still all right. It will be fine if I rest for a period of time." Xiao Yan understood the little fairy doctor's character extremely well. He ignored her words, squatted down, and grabbed the little fairy doctor's snow-white hand. A thread of spiritual strength was carefully transmitted into her body. It was only slowly withdrawn after a careful examination. Xiao Yan's expression was a little ugly when he withdrew his spiritual strength. At this moment, the situation in the little fairy doctor's body was extremely terrible. Quite a number of places within her were seriously injured. Moreover, the thing that caused Xiao Yan's heart to sink was that so-called Ice Sun force. He was unable to detect where it was. However, he could vaguely sense that the Ice Sun force hidden in little fairy doctor's body was emitting an ice-cold temperature, gradually freezing the blood and veins in the little fairy doctor's body. "Xinlan, do you know about the Ice River Valley Ice Sun force?" Xiao Yan turned his head, looked at Xinlan, and asked. Xinlan mused for a moment after hearing his question. After which, she replied, "Based on what I know, This ice sun force is a unique do chi that the Ice River Valley possesses. Moreover, only an expert do zone will be able to practice and form a tiny amount of it. However, if this ice sun force is inserted into the opponent's body when exchanging blow, it would cause the situation to become extremely troublesome for the opponent. Therefore, quite a number of experts specifically defend against the ice sun force when fighting against the people from the Ice River Valley. Even I am uncertain about the method to remove it. Xiao Yan slightly frowned. He looked at the pale white face of the little fairy doctor and involuntarily felt a heartache. His hand gently fondled her long, snow-white hair. He must get rid of this ice sun force as soon as possible. Otherwise, the little fairy doctor would never be able to recover from her injuries. This ice sun force is indeed strange and unique. However, it is not something that only the Ice River Valley's Valley Chief could remove, as Bing Fu had mentioned. Xiao Yan once again inserted his spiritual strength into the little fairy doctor's body. He sensed the uniqueness of the ice sun force, and he slowly opened his eyes. He knit his eyebrows and fell deep into thought. This continued for half an hour before he relaxed his tight frown. He waved his hand and a wooden box appeared in the mountain cave. With a flick of his finger, some water that he had prepared in his storage ring flowed out and filled the wooden tub. After doing all this, Xiao Yan clenched his hand and a cluster of jade-green flames surged out. His finger was gently flicked and many medicinal ingredients rushed out of his storage ring. After which, they were inserted into the flame and swiftly vaporized, transforming into a somewhat bright red powders and liquids. After having thrown all these powders and liquids into the tub, the clear water within immediately transformed into a bright red color. Moreover, there were still water bubbles rising on the surface, causing it to appear as though it was boiling. The clear water within the wooden tub was immediately filled with a hot fire affinity energy following the many powders and liquids that were poured in. This fire affinity energy was extremely dense. However, it was strangely gentle. Xin Lan removed the little fairy doctor clothes and helped her into the tub. Xiao Yang suddenly turned around after throwing in the final medicinal ingredient before speaking in a faint voice. Xin Lan and the little fairy doctor were startled when they heard this. An alluring bright redness immediately surged onto the little fairy doctor's pale white face. Xin Lan's eyes exchanged looks with the little fairy doctor. Only after that did she move gently and walk to the little fairy doctor's side. After which, Xinlu gently removed her clothes, even though the little fairy doctor's bright red peach blossom face was clearly visible. After the removal of her clothes, one could see her perfect white jade-like smooth body revealed in this ice-cold air. Splash! Xiao Yang let out a soft sigh of relief after hearing the slight sound of someone entering the water. He turned around and saw the little fairy doctor curling herself up in the wooden tub. The pretty face that was revealed over the surface of the water was an alluring bashful red. Absorb the energy inside and circulate it around your body. It might be a little pain, but it will be fine if you endure it a little. Xiao Yang softly instructed. After which, he flicked his 10 fingers gently and 10 wisps of jade-green flames suddenly shot out. After which, they emitted kite sounds as they entered the wooden tub like jade-green water snakes. Burble burble. The surface of the water appeared to be boiling as it repeatedly emitted hundreds of bubbles following the entry of the glazed lotus heart flame into the wooden tub. The little fairy doctor, who was soaking within it, emitted a groan from her throat. The boiling hot feeling caused her to feel as though she was in a sea of flames. Although it will be a little painful, the heavenly flame will allow the medicinal strength to enter your body in an even more perfect manner. At the same time, it will also suppress the ice sun force from spreading. Xiao Yang hurriedly explained when he saw the little fairy doctor tightly frowning. The little fairy doctor tightly bit her lower red lip with the back of her teeth. She nodded and formed a training seal with her hands under the water. After which, she endured the boiling hot feeling and swiftly absorbed the dense fire affinity medicinal strength that was within the wooden basin. The water within the wooden basin gradually formed a whirlpool under the little fairy doctor's absorption. Numerous wisps of red-colored energy repeatedly surged into the little fairy doctor's body at a speed visible to the naked eye. Following the bright red energy entering the little fairy doctor's body, a pale white face gradually turned red. Strangely, an extremely icy-cold vapor was being emitted from one side while a faint red-colored, hot vapor was being emitted on the other side. At a glance, the entire situation was exceptionally strange. It is really effective. Xinlan by the side joyfully exclaimed after seeing this scene. Xiao Yang sighed in relief within his heart. It was fortunate that there was not much ice-sun force within the little fairy doctor's body. Otherwise, even if he had a method that could work, it was likely impossible to completely remove the ice-sun force without at least 10 days or half a month. Xinlan, you have a better understanding of the pill region. Therefore, I wish to ask you for help. Xiao Yang turned his head, looked at Xinlan, and spoke in a deep voice after seeing that the ice-sun force in the little fairy doctor's body was gradually being removed. Yes, big brother Xiao Yan, please tell me what to do. Lead this fallen god stream and help me gather all of these medicinal ingredients. Xiao Yang took out a piece of white paper from his storage ring. The names of some medicinal ingredients were written on it. All of them were the medicinal ingredients he needed to help Qian Huazunja refine a body. He had already killed many people from the Ice River Valley. It was likely that he had formed a death feud with them. Therefore, Xiao Yang needed to be prepared. Xinlan glanced at the white paper after receiving it. She involuntarily became speechless. The names of the medicinal ingredients that were written on it were some she had never even heard of. However, she still nodded and said, Big brother Xiao Yang, please be reassured that if I fail to gather all of them, I will return to the clan and take them for you. Xiao Yang quietly nodded. He flicked his finger and the earth demon puppet flashed and appeared. It will protect you during this trip. However, it is best that you place some clothing over it before leaving the fallen god stream in order to avoid attention. Xinlan solemnly nodded. She could guess the importance of this matter to Xiao Yang and did not stay for long. After carefully storing the white paper into her storage ring, she swiftly walked out of the cave. The earth demon puppet followed close behind her. Xiao Yang withdrew his gaze after watching Xinlan disappear from the cave's exit. He threw his eyes back to the little fairy doctor in the wooden tub. A cold glint flashed across his eyes. Ice River Valley, this matter will not be resolved easily. The expulsion of the ice-sun force from the little fairy doctor's body took nearly 4 days of Xiao Yang's time. Xiao Yang had mixed around 100 types of medicinal ingredients' medicinal strength into the water during these 4 days. After which, he allowed the little fairy doctor to absorb all of them into her body. Only then was the ice-sun force, hidden in her body, gradually forced out. Due to this, Xiao Yang felt that the ice-sun force of the Ice River Valley was troublesome to deal with. However, this special do chi that could only be practiced after one had reached the strength of a do zone did indeed have extraordinary aspects. Xiao Yang was seated cross-legged on a stone within the warmly lit mountain cave. A wooden tub with rising heat was in front of him. The wooden tub was filled with a bright red medicinal liquid. The little fairy doctor was seated within it. She bit her lower red lip with the back of her teeth and droplets of perspiration formed while carrying some cold air. After which, they rolled down her face and fell into the wooden tub. The perspiration was subsequently scattered by the heat within the medicinal liquid. At this moment, most of the medicinal liquid within the wooden tub had been absorbed. Hence, the little fairy doctor's smooth shoulders had been revealed. The medicinal liquid dripped onto one and quietly rolled down. She appeared like a top-quality suet jade, causing one to feel an unwillingness to part with her. A faint fog rose from the wooden tub. A couple of threads of snow-white hair fell onto little fairy doctor's forehead. They set off her pretty face, that was dripping some sweet perspiration, causing her to appear exceptionally enchanting. Her grayish-purple eyes gently blinked, releasing an unusually shocking allure. Bright red medicinal strength surged into the little fairy doctor's body from the wooden tub. This continued for a long time before her lovely body suddenly shook. Her small mouth widened and a small ice cube, formed from cold air, shot out of her mouth and struck an enormous rock in the cave. Immediately, that piece of rock was covered by a thick layer of ice amid a cracking sound. The paleness on the little fairy doctor's face diminished after this tiny ice cube left her body. A sleek red color slowly appeared. Xiao Yang, who was training with his eyes shut, quickly opened them to this commotion. He saw the little fairy doctor's expression as he involuntarily rejoiced. He asked, "Has the ice-sun force been removed from your body?" The little fairy doctor smiled sweetly and nodded, "That's good. This thing is troublesome to deal with. I have tried nearly 100 types of medicinal ingredients in order to concoct a suitable medicinal strength. Xiao Yang sighed in relief when he saw her nod. He immediately sighed in relief and smiled as he said, since the ice sun force had been removed, you should not be in a serious condition. The injuries in your body are a small matter now. I have the confidence to help you swiftly recover. The little fairy doctor nodded once again. She did not doubt Xiao Yang's pill refinement abilities at all. Can you turn around first? The little fairy doctor's eyes turned away. A bright redness suddenly flew onto her pretty face as she softly asked. Xiao Yan was initially startled when he heard this. Immediately, he gave her an embarrassed smile and hurriedly turned around. He twisted his head to one side as he did so. The little fairy doctor quietly sighed in relief after seeing Xiao Yang turn around as he had been told. She bit her lower red lip with the back of her teeth and moved her lovely body. Her hand moved as her body rose from the wooden tub and a clean, white-colored dress flew out of her storage ring. Within an instant, it wrapped around her perfect, clean body. I'm done. Xiao Yang only turned around after hearing her gentle voice escape her lips from behind him. He looked at the lady, who appeared exceptionally fresh in a white-colored dress, and an amazed expression involuntarily flashed past his eyes. The little fairy doctor's current demeanor was just like when Xiao Yang had met her for the first time back in Qingshan town. She was just like a piece of jade that warmed one's heart. The current her was truly like the little fairy doctor from back then. She was viewed as a goddess in the hearts of those mercenaries from Qingshan town and not the poison sect poison lady from the Chuyun Empire, a name everyone feared. Xiao Yan slowly withdrew the surprise in his eyes and involuntarily felt a little pleased. The period of time in the Chuyun Empire was likely the darkest period in the little fairy doctor's heart. Even with his company later on, she still appeared a little quiet. Clearly, she was influenced by her memories of that time. However, when Xiao Yang saw her today, this girl, who had a desolate and pitiful background, appeared to have begun to walk away from the shadow of her memory during that period of time. The current her was truly the little fairy doctor whom Xiao Yang was acquainted with back then. What are you looking at? The little fairy doctor curled her pretty eyes a little as she softly laughed. Her beautiful eyes danced, looking at a beauty. Xiao Yang teasingly laughed. After which, he leaped down from the large rock and landed beside the little fairy doctor. He grabbed the other party's snow-white wrist, shut his eyes, and once again began to probe the injuries within her body. The little fairy doctor's pretty eyes looked at the young face in front of her. This face might not be as young nor as handsome as those she had seen over the years, but he was just like good wine as it seeped into one's heart, causing one to feel exceptionally warm. Thank you. The little fairy doctor muttered to herself using a soft voice only she could hear. Immediately, a faint warm smile was lifted on her pretty face. This smile was different from the past. At this moment, it seemed that something was added to it, causing this pretty smile to appear even more alluring and warm. Xiao Yang had shut his eyes. He slowly opened them a moment later and said to the little fairy doctor with a grin, "The situation is much better than I had thought. Take this medicinal pill. You should be able to recover to your peak within 2 to 3 days." Xiao Yang took out a round medicinal pill from his storage ring and handed it to the little fairy doctor. The little fairy doctor extended her hand and took the medicinal pill. She slightly nodded. It seemed that she could be much more relaxed with Xiao Yang beside her. "How is your woeful poisoned body?" Xiao Yang glanced at the little fairy doctor's expression and suddenly asked a question. "I'm all right. However, there should only be 2 to 3 months until it erupts. I am able to sense it." The little fairy doctor smiled. That causal manner of hers appeared as though she was speaking about something else. "This is all right?" Xiao Yang intently frowned. His voice involuntarily dipped. He was a little unhappy about the attitude the little fairy doctor used to treat herself. The little fairy doctor slightly smiled after appearing to have heard the displeasure in Xiao Yang's voice. She softly said, "Even if the poisoned body really erupts and attacks my consciousness, I will definitely still recognize you at that time." The memory of the person in front of her occupied a large portion of her life. He was her first friend, and her only good friend that she acknowledged from her heart. This simple friend seemed to have deviated into something else within her heart. His weight in her heart had become heavier. You are really only speaking nonsense. Relax, I will obtain the monster core of the sky poison dragon scorpion beast within these 2 to 3 months. At that time, I will be able to allow you to completely control the woeful poison body. Xiao Yan helplessly shook his head as he promised. Although he already possessed a rank 6 monster core of the sky poison dragon scorpion beast in his storage ring, it did not satisfy the requirements. Unless he really ended up reaching that stage, Xiao Yan did not intend to risk using it. After all, this was related to whether or not the little fairy doctor would live or die. Sky poison dragon scorpion beast. The little fairy doctor's pretty eyes blinked when she heard this. A strange expression surfaced on her face. She hesitated for a moment before saying, if it is the sky poison dragon scorpion beast, we will be able to find one in this fallen god stream. Xiao Yang was startled. A wild joy suddenly appeared on his face as he asked, what rank is it at? Rank 7, I think. It is able to transform into a human form. Little fairy doctor softly replied, you have seen it? Where? The wild joy in Xiao Yang's eyes became denser as he hurriedly asked, poison objects roam the interior of the fallen god stream. It does not lack poison magical beasts with terrifying strengths. This place possesses some magical beast factions scattered around. Moreover, the sky poison dragon scorpion beast is coincidentally an overlord of this fallen god stream. The little fairy doctor's hand parted a thread of snow-white hair on her forehead. The strange expression on her face became even more prominent as she said, not long after I entered the fallen god stream, I met that sky poison dragon scorpion beast. That fellow was like a lunatic after seeing me. He repeatedly howled, wanting to capture me to be his woman. Back then, I was seriously injured and did not wish to get entangled with that maniac. All I could do was think of a way to escape. Xiao Yang was stunned. He looked at the strange expression on the little fairy doctor's face with surprise. A moment later, he could not help but shake his head. He laughed, feeling that the entire situation was comical. Looks like your charm is too much to handle. Even a magical beast has become crazily attracted to you. He even wishes to capture you to make you his wife. What is there to laugh about? That fellow clearly fancies the woeful poison body. A bright redness surfaced on the little fairy doctor's face as she chided when she heard Xiao Yang's teasing. Xiao Yang ceased laughing, aware that the little fairy doctor was right. His eyes revealed an excited expression as he said, what is that large fellow's strength like? I never exchanged blows with him. However, it is likely that his strength is even greater than Bing Fu and the others. Based on my guess, he should have reached the 8-star Do Zone level. The little fairy doctor voiced her thoughts. An 8-star Do Zone, huh? Xiao Yang nodded in acknowledgement. Fortunately, it was not a bone that he could not chew. You should recuperate first. Once your injuries are completely healed, we will attack that sky poison dragon scorpion beast. If we can obtain its monster core, the problem of the woeful poison body will be completely resolved. Xiao Yang mused for a moment before waving his hand and announcing his decision. The little fairy doctor gently nodded when she heard his words. The woeful poison body was a large stone that had been pressing on her heart for a long time. It would naturally be best if she could completely resolve it. Before this, I will also need to make some preparations and ensure that no accidents will occur. Xiao Yang smiled. His body moved, and he once again sat on the rock. An excited expression flashed across his dark black eyes. He really wanted to know just what level the little fairy doctor would reach after completely controlling her woeful poison body. Would she leap to the Dozun class? If that was possible, would he not possess 2 elite Dozuns beside him, including Tian Huozunja? Even Xiao Yang could not help but feel his emotions surge when he thought of this. In the past, he never would have expected 2 extraordinary experts to gather beside him. Xiao Yang did not become hasty despite having obtained traces of the sky poison dragon scorpion beast. A fierce beast with the strength of an 8-star Do Zone was not an ordinary being. If he did prepare enough, it was likely that his chances of succeeding would not be great. At the moment, Xiao Yang's strength was merely that of a 1-star Do Zone. The little fairy doctor had exceeded Xiao Yang's expectations and reached the level of a 6-star Do Zone. This kind of training speed was also quite great. If they were to join hands, it would not be impossible to kill the sky poison dragon scorpion beast. However, they would definitely exhaust a ton of effort to do so. After all, an 8-star zone was similar to an existence like Fei Tian. Additionally, no one knew just what kind of trump cards the other party possessed. If they failed to capture him the first time and allowed him to flee, where would they go to look for him? Moreover, even if Xiao Yan possessed the energy to do so, the little fairy doctor did not have the strength to do so at the moment. Hence, he would rather not act. Once he acted, he would have absolute confidence he would succeed. Moreover, being an overlord of this fallen god stream, that sky poison dragon scorpion beast already possessed a human form. His intelligence would not be inferior to that of a human. He might even be more cunning than that. Hence, quite a number of powerful magical beasts would gather under him. If Xiao Yang and the little fairy doctor were to attack, these magical beasts would pose some trouble. Fortunately, Xiao Yang had Tian Huazunja, this great helper. Based on his initial plan, he would help Tian Huazunja refine a body before attacking the sky poison dragon scorpion beast. However, after searching for the ingredients in his storage ring, he discovered that he was coincidentally missing one item, the essence blood of a rank 7 magical beast. Of course, strictly speaking, it was not that he did not possess that item. The essence blood that had been refined from the corpse of the heaven demon Phoenix was of a rank that far exceeded the requirement. Unfortunately, there was an insufficient amount of it. Only the few miserable droplets of the heaven demon Phoenix essence blood remained in Xiao Yan's hands. This little bit was insufficient to refine a body. Hence, the essence blood that was required to refine this body would likely have to come from that sky poison dragon scorpion beast. Xiao Yan's upper body was naked as he sat within the cave that was filled with warm light. The ink-like demon poison spot was slowly wiggling on his chest. The circular surroundings of the poison spot had a faint green color. A high temperature was continuously being emitted from it. Under this high temperature, the demon poison spot was repeatedly emitting wisps of black air. Finally, these wisps were absorbed by the high temperature. With Xiao Yang's current strength, this demon poison spot no longer posed much of a threat to him. Moreover, with the help of the heavenly flame's might, he was able to refine it as he pleased. Of course, due to him being afraid that refining it all at once would cause his strength to soar and end up influencing his training foundation, Xiao Yan paid special attention during the refinement. He acted just like he was removing a cocoon as he slowly pulled out a thread at a time. Finally, he completely refined it and turned it into something he could use. Although Xiao Yang's advancement was suppressed during this careful refinement, his training speed was also something that an ordinary dozone would not be able to match. After all, other people did not possess such pure do-chi for them to refine and absorb. If one were to talk about it, Xiao Bai Yang from the 10,000 Scorpion Gate back then had really left Xiao Yang with a wonderful treasure. A bonfire was burning within the cave. The little fairy doctor was holding her cheeks beside the bonfire. Occasionally, her eyes would glance at Xiao Yang, who was training. Each time, her eyes would pause on the demon poison spot on Xiao Yang's chest, stirring her memories. She recalled the scene of the fight with the 10,000 Scorpion Gate in the Chuyun Empire back then. Boom! While the little fairy doctor's thoughts were drifting, a deep, muffled sound suddenly appeared in the cave. She hurriedly raised her head only to discover that the energy within the cave had suddenly become violent. It was as though the energy was being dragged by something as it wildly surged to a corner of the cave. The little fairy doctor's eyes followed the direction the energy was surging to. Immediately, they paused on Xiao Yang's body. Surprise flashed across her pretty eyes. Advancement? This unusual phenomenon was not foreign to the little fairy doctor because she had already experienced it many times. Xiao Bai Yang's strength had reached that of a 3 to 4-star dozone back then. Although the poison spot that had been formed from all of his do-chi had caused Xiao Yang to suffer a little, it could be considered a great tonic. The little fairy doctor softly laughed and did not feel worried. When she saw Xiao Yang again, she had sensed that he was at the peak of a 1-star dozone and was not far from breaking through. Moreover, after having viciously refined the do-chi within the demon poison spot, Xiao Yang had naturally reached the requirement for his advancement. It was just as the little fairy doctor had expected. Xiao Yan's face did not reveal any panic after the unusual phenomenon occurred. Instead, he increased the suction. A cluster of jade-green flames swiftly poured out of his body. After which, the natural energy that surged over underwent an initial refinement by the heavenly flame before being unceremoniously absorbed into his body. Poison objects roamed all over the fallen god stream. Even the natural energy of this place was mixed with some poison gas. An ordinary expert would not dare to train in this place. Fortunately, Xiao Yan possessed the heavenly flame. The poison gas mixed in the natural energy was automatically removed by the frighteningly high temperature of the heavenly flame. The energy that a Do zone required to advance was extremely great. An unceasing amount of energy surged into the cave, forming an energy swirl around Xiao Yan. After which, it poured into Xiao Yan's body. The little fairy doctor lazily stood up after seeing the activity that Xiao Yan had created. She walked to the entrance of the cave. The poison beings within the fallen god stream were extremely sensitive to energy. This large-scale absorption of natural energy by Xiao Yan would definitely attract their attention. Therefore, she would need to put in some effort to guard him. The little fairy doctor's footsteps stopped at the entrance of the cave. She looked at the dark black world outside and lazily leaned against a rock wall. After musing for a moment, an unusually majestic aura slowly spread out, deterring some of the fierce and vicious poison creatures that had been attracted by the commotion. Part 1 ends here.